Welcome to What's All That Bracket, the Commander series where we take a holistic approach to a legendary creature and follow its journey from Bracket 2 to Bracket 4. I'm Clint. You're chilling at the mana cooler. Come crack open a cold one and stay a while. In today's video, we'll be looking at one of my favorite clown-like individuals, Kefka Palazzo, as Kefka, Court Mage. When this poor nihilistic, silly little guy who did nothing wrong at all enters or attacks, each player discards a card, then you get to draw a card for each card type among cards discarded this way. Less interesting is the fact that we can also transform Kefka for 8 mana and force each opponent to sacrifice a permanent of their choice, and then we get Kefka, Ruler of Ruin, a flying 5/7 with whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. There are a few choice scenarios where we will be using this side of the card, but we'll touch on that a little bit later in the video. So why Bracket 2? Bracket 2 is the natural entry point for Commander, and while not explicitly tied to a precon in the system's current iteration, I figured this is as good a place as any to start with the challenge. So, the goal here is to keep decks playable, similar to current precons at the time of the video, and still keep things affordable. Expect similar mana bases to what you'd find in a precon, some typical precon staples, as well as a few other choice cards that one could imagine reasonably being reprinted here. When we move to Bracket 3 and beyond, this guide will not focus too much on changes to the land bases. There's several great guides out there for crafting mana bases, and I may have to put together one of my own in the future as a separate video. But as far as recent precons, there's been a lot of good reprints in those, making the need for non-utility lands that enter tapped almost the thing of the past. But that being said, if you're ever looking for clear upgrades to your mana, shock lands, fetch lands, triomes, verges, pain lands, check lands, all sorts of solid ideas. But you might also be asking, why no Bracket 5 in this video, otherwise known as CEDH? Well, Competitive Elder Dragon Highlander is its own beast with people much more qualified to yap about it than me on the internet. While occasionally some of the commanders we look at, like Kefka here, may be CEDH worthy, not every commander can truly reach Bracket 5 relevancy. It is, however, my opinion that every legendary can fit into every other bracket. You just have to believe. So, let's dive in with Bracket 2. As much as I love Inala, Archmage Ritualist from 2017, that was a much different time for pre-constructed decks. It's time for a new wizard to take up that typal precon crown. Let's just not place it on Terra's head, okay? Kefka might not be the best team player in Final Fantasy VI, but in Magic the Gathering, we've got friends like Adeliz, the Cinderwind, who's going to give not prowess to all of your wizards. We have a lot of wizards in this deck. Like Balmor, Battle Mage Captain also does a similar gimmick, giving +1/+0 and trample for each instant and sorcery you cast in a turn as well. And while not a Lord effect, Sage of Fables will give wizards +1/+1 counter and a potential source of card draw when you desperately need it. Marchesa the Black Rose also can shine here. Dethrone is a great mechanic, and being able to return and recur creatures back to the battlefield that have +1/+1 counters on them can help pay off immensely with the amount of wizards we have getting those counters. It's also important to note the Final Fantasy set gave us another unlikely hero for this deck. No, not those, you get out of here, but rather the 0/1 wizard creature token, which features whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. We like these guys, and we want as many of them as we can get. Cards like Mysidian Elder, cornered by Black Mages, Black Mage's Rod, and Kuja, Genome Sorcerer, all make us plenty of those tokens. And I know not all of these we just talked about are creatures, and, you know, one does make a hero token too, but you know what? We'll get to that later. Right now, let's focus on Kuja, who when he flips will make all your wizards you control deal double damage. Even your little guys are going to get real scary real fast. Speaking of little guys, we have the adorable Corsication Mage and its offspring, who were doing the whole non-creature spell equals damage thing before it was cool. And for slightly bigger guys, we have Black Waltz number 3, who is what would happen if one of our adorable tokens decided to hit the gym. At this point, you may be thinking, a pumped-up board of wizards swinging and pinging for tons of damage sounds great. But why Kefka? Well, you see, Kefka is the glue that holds it all together, denies your opponent's resources by forcing them to discard, and gives you massive hand advantage. And we also do have a support staff for him in the deck as well. Starting with Asylum Visitor, who will potentially reward you with a greed draw on each player's upkeep, even your own, if that player has no cards in hand. The madness cost also makes it a prime target for when you have to resolve Kefka's ability as well. Caligo Skinwitch has Kicker that can help Kefka in his quest to leave opponents with no hand, and Dreamstealer, while a single target discard effect equal to the combat damage it deals, will also benefit from a lot of the other power buffs in the deck. Flamekin Herald is here too, since almost everything else in the deck is a valid cascade target for when Kefka does eventually arrive. And you might be thinking, what's better than one Kefka? Well, 2 Kefkas. Gogo, Mysterious Mime, while not a fan of Kefka in lore, pairs nicely with him, or really anything else you're trying to attack with for that matter. Since Gogo copies until the end of turn, you can also use this to double up on the rest of the deck's stellar activated abilities granted by him and his copied friend, provided both can survive a little bit of fisticuffs. We also have a solid loot effect in Ashling Rekindled who... Oh, what? Wait? She's a sorcerer? Oh, God. Whole deck's ruined. I ruined it. I ruined this whole... Oh, okay. Also, Ashling the Rhymebound, who can help both fix mana and get Kefka out a little bit quicker, as well as our other high-cost cards in the deck. We also can go ahead and get 2 Kefka triggers during our end step if we have Y'shtola Rule. You know, it's a cat druid, but you know, druids are kind of wizards, right? Why does this keep happening? Anyway, Y'shtola is a lofty 4 blue, but she can really help drive home the point of the deck with those Kefka triggers. And since we're already going through a bunch of other non-wizards, why not? Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, is an excellent continual source of discard effects, just like Kefka. And the last non-wizard in the deck, I swear, is Nightscape Familiar. Wizards have familiars, right? It's fine. It's okay. He's going to make all of our red and blue spells cost 1 generic less mana to cast. We've gotten all those non-wizards out of the way. Let's go back to our actual wizards here. Hydro Channeler and Goblin Electromancer will help with some of those mana costs on instants and sorceries. Bloodline Necromancer is a single but repeatable recursion option. Niban, Dean of Iteration, plus Harmonic Prodigy, both of which can copy ETBs or otherwise. Harmonic Prodigy very well may be the MVP of the deck. Cannot recommend getting this card out as quickly as possible. We do also have 2 potential win conditions, other than just beating everyone in the face, in Laboratory Maniac and Triskaidekaphile. While drawing out your deck is not a priority in this build, it's still a great option to have it as a toolkit against any mill strategies, or really just to scare the rest of the table. Triskaidekaphile also gives us no hand size, which is something that will definitely come in handy, and also something to do with the leftover mana if we ever just want to draw a card. As this is a bracket 2 deck, we also have Cyclonic Rift at home in the form of Cyclone Summoner. As long as the rest of the pod isn't playing Giants, Wizards, or Toph the First Metal Bender, I guess. Wrapping up our creature choices, we have a few cards that make use of the prepared mechanic from Secrets of Strixhaven. Meritus of Conflict, Landscape Painter, Inspired Sky Painter. You know, instants and sorceries on creatures, that stuff's awesome. I like that. It will really help out with those triggers on some of the other things we have as well. Moving on to instants. We have one main goal in this deck, and that is to keep Kefka as safe as humanly possible. And we want to do it for as little mana as we can. An offer you can't refuse: Arcane Denial, Counterspell, Swan Song, Wizard's Retort, and the recent Mana Sculpt from Secrets of Strixhaven, otherwise known as Mana Drain at Home, all do a great job of just saying no. Blink effects can also help us here. Not only do we want to get rid of a lot of targeted bad stuff by blinking Kefka, but that's more Kefka triggers. Essence Flux, Planar Incision, Teferi's Time Twist all make the cut here. Ways to definitely make sure that Kefka is going to stick around. We also have a limited removal package with Chaos Warp, Reality Shift, and Flame of Anor. Much like Flame of Anor can, we also have Brainstorm to give us just a little bit of card draw and deck manipulation, which we'd love to see. Then we have Dark Ritual, because honestly, when do we not need more mana? And lastly, we have Saw in Half, because we really don't care how big Kefka is, as long as we're getting the triggers. And in a pinch, we can also use it to disrupt combat, or otherwise make certain legendary creatures without enter the battlefield effects just a little bit more manageable. Moving on to sorceries, we have our obligatory precon board wipes here with Blasphemous Act and Toxic Deluge, which really are kind of the best in class for these colors. Vandal Blast will then also give us options for artifact removal, which the deck definitely needs. Likewise, Feed the Swarm gives us some enchantment removal as well, which is a very rare thing out of these colors. Faithless Looting is also here, as well as Expressive Iteration, because once again, drawing is real helpful. Last inclusion to our sorceries is Splash Portal. It is definitely a blink card to exist, but that single pip cost is really going to help with more draws off of Balmor and Corsication Mage even. So, if we're going to bounce those things, get a card back, we're going to spell sling a little bit, why not splash it up? Let's take a look at our artifacts here. We're going to have an honest discussion. Grixis does not ramp very well. As we continue through to bracket 3 and up, this does become less of a problem with fast mana from artifacts and some very scary monkeys. But in the meantime, before we get there, I've created a comprehensive mana rock package of Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Creativity, Talisman of Dominance, Talisman of Indulgence, and Thought Vessel, which also removes that pesky hand size while we're at it. It may be a little bit excessive, but this makes sure that we're going to see some of those mana rocks early in the game so that we can get Kefka out sooner rather than later. We also want to get Kefka out swinging and avoiding pesky interaction, so we're going to have Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves here as well. And lastly, for artifacts, we have 2 pieces of equipment in Black Mage's Rod, which is going to make a hero token, but it's job select. It's okay. It has to do that. And if you look at the rest of the card, it does make that hero a wizard, as well as anything else that you do equip Wizard's Rod to. It'll also give +1/+0 and the ability to ping anytime you play a non-creature spell. Second piece of equipment is Diviner's Wand, which is a silly one. It's actually a kindred wizard equipment, gives +1/+1 and flying to the equipped creature whenever you draw a card. You can also equip this to a wizard whenever one enters. You play this down before Kefka comes out. Kefka comes onto the battlefield. Hopefully, as soon as Kefka swings, not only will Kefka be flying right out the gate, but get a nice little boost as well. For our lands, we'll start off with the lands that make every color of our deck: Command Tower, Crumbling Necropolis, and Path of Ancestry. Make sure you're not forgetting the bottom half of Path of Ancestry while using it. Since this is Wizard typal, hey, it's free, and you should always be scrying. Similarly, when casting wizards, we also have Secluded Courtyard, which works amazing in a typal deck. When we look at our utility lands here, we have Reliquary Tower, which gives us no hand size, Rogue's Passage in case Kefka wants an attack trigger but doesn't want to be blocked. Riptide Laboratories also here, as it can sometimes save a wizard, or if we're flush with mana and we want some more wizard enter the battlefield effects, we can use Riptide Laboratory to do just that. Secrets of Strixhaven also gave us Great Hall of the Biblioplex, which is excellent for color fixing on our instants and sorceries, even if it costs a single life each time we use it, but it can also become a wizard in a pinch itself. Otherwise, we have the relevant Reveal lands, Tango lands, Tainted lands, Pain lands, Check lands, Exotic Orchard, Fabled Passage, and
4 basic swamps, 5 islands, and 5 mountains.
Let's keep in mind that this is by no means the best way to build Kefka, or even the best way to do this at bracket 2. But this is merely a base here for our bracket journey. Moving on to bracket 3. My biggest piece of advice here, just throw out the wizards. Typal is a great way to build a precon or precon level decks, and there definitely are typal decks that have a reputation.
Slivers! Eldrazi! Oh, wow.
But, you know, look at my innocent clown boy. He might be a wizard in type line, but, you know, he could really care less about what any of these other losers are doing in the deck. With the exception of Kuja and Harmonic Prodigy, both of them can definitely stay. And Go-Go. Go-Go is great too. Despite what I just said, there are actually a couple of new wizard friends that can help us out here and are sure to be a drag on the rest of the pod, both Niv-Mizzet Perun and Niv-Mizzet the Firemind to be exact. Remember earlier when we very briefly touched on flipping Kefka? While it does rarely happen, but when we can, both Niv-Mizzets give us a nice rewarding way to close the game out with a late game infinite combo. Moving away from the wizards, Psychosis Caller also does the exact same role for a mana less. Remember the utility we had with Y'shtola Rule. Other repeatable blink cards like Conjurer's Closet are also a great thing to pivot to here as we start to focus less and less on wizards and making sure we're getting more Kefka triggers so that nobody at the table has a hand but you. As you're looking at a lot of these though, you're probably noticing that the mana values are pretty high, and even Kefka's converted 5 mana cost is a little steep if he keeps getting hit with removal. And while so far I have just shouted as loudly as I can that we're trying to keep Kefka from getting hit, that just doesn't happen. So, be focused on adding ways to pay for everything like Descent to Avernus, or card draw like Mystic Remora, or more discard synergy related things like Geth's Grimoire. But we have something that ties both of these strategies together in Waste Not, and probably the biggest MVP of the deck, Monument to Endurance, which turns your discard strats into a very, very well-oiled value machine. Now that we're in bracket 3, we also want to change things up a bit by adding 3 game changers. Our 3 most fitting game changers for synergy with Kefka are: number 1, Tergrid, God of Fright. The synergy on both sides of the card have Kefka's game plan exactly in mind. Plan your curve accordingly here and either be really annoying with the Lantern, or, the better option, take your discard to the next level with outright theft. Number 2 game changer, Notion Thief, if only for the reason that one of discard's biggest enemies is card draw. Grabbing extra cards to discard is also very helpful for Kefka, especially if they were supposed to be your opponent's cards. For number 3, I would love to say Jessica's Will, but odds are your opponent won't have a hand. So, instead, in this slot, I would say looking to a tutor of your choice, or one or more counterspells to help keep Kefka alive. If your pod is as tricksy as you are, though, this is where Opposition Agent would be a great idea. If they do top deck a tutor, we're going to make sure that it doesn't stop your plans. Next up, it's the big leagues with bracket 4. While Kefka is a mad lad with CDH-worthy stats, we're going to be dancing to a little bit of a different tune here and look at what we can do with this specific deck we've been brewing instead. Adding in the game changer staples of the format such as Rhystic, Cyclonic Rift, and other great things such as Fierce Guardianship and Force of Will are more than recommended. We're also going to look to add as many tutors as we can until we are personally satisfied. I've just mentioned a lot of blue cards and a lot of black cards. We've got Grixis as our color identity, which means we also have Dimir, including one of the most degenerate things you can do in a commander deck, Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation. And if we haven't already, now's the time to put a very cute cuddly Displacer Kitten into our deck, as well as Hexing Squelcher, who can make Kefka's plans go off without any interruptions and slow down any possible objections. While not necessary here, another direction you may think about taking the deck is putting in Grand Architect and Pilipala, which will help you get infinite mana, which will definitely come in handy here. We're going to have a lot of card draw and tutors, so it should be fairly easy to pull this combo off. If it's your personal preference, feel free to also include Bolas's Citadel, or rather, Kefka's Tower, just so you can be absolutely positive that the next 2 cards on the top of your deck will be lands at any given point in time. I'm not salty at all. Speaking of lands, there are many guides out there for Stellar Grixis land bases you should be utilizing at this point. But most importantly, if you didn't back in bracket 3, now's the time to throw in Cabal Coffers and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. I would also recommend Mistrise Village, which is an option here to make sure your most impactful spells can't be countered. That being said, regardless of bracket and very fitting to Kefka, this deck will in most cases make you the archvillain at any pod you sit down at. Once you've made the pod realize how meaningless everything is, it's time to destroy them all. Well, let's take a step back for a moment. Or rather, a few steps all the way back to bracket 1. Yes, bracket 1. A bracket where few dare to venture, where things like synergy and card quality take a backseat to something even more powerful. The bit. In this case, let's make the theatrics worthy of Kefka himself. It's time to send in the clowns. Starting from scratch entirely, let's bring out Razorkin Hordecaller, Vicious Clown, Non-Human Cannonball, One Clown Band, and Celebrate 1000. There are 7 clowns, not including Kefka of course, legal in Commander, and a whopping 5 of them can join Kefka. Do they synergize with him? No, not really, but they're clowns. We then have Circuits Act and the much-needed Clown Car to really send the theme home. Not fortunate enough to have been granted the clown creature type, we do have Massacre Girl, Known Killer, who definitely looks the part as well. The lack of non-acorn clown girls is an absolute blunder on Wizards' part, and I really hope that they take the steps to correct this in the future. As much as I love Kefka, I can't help but admit, he's definitely got a few issues, you know, outside of that whole wanting to snuff out all of the life in the world thing. So let's also lean into that. Laughing Mad, Whispering Madness, Descent into Madness, Rack with Madness, and Brink of Madness. can help show us that we're all just a little bit mad here. Kefka's other legendary card, Kefka, Dancing Mad, can also help us round out the creature count, as well as some other mad friends, such as Battle Mad Ronin, Mad Dog, Maddening Imp, Mad Prophet, Mad Ratter, Mirror Mad Phantasm, and Stockman Mad Flyentist. I feel like Kefka would really appreciate that pun. We can even get our lands a little bit mad with Mad Blind Mountain. Is this land good? No, not at all. It is horrible. But you can use it to shuffle your deck if you get bored. Wrapping up our Bracket 1 journey, let's make sure we're also including Poison the Waters, Espers to Magicite, and maybe Murder, for good measure. It just wouldn't be Kefka without them. With that, I think we can safely say that we've figured out what all that bracket is about. The full deck list for Bracket 2 Kefka is linked in the video's description. There's a few other spicy ways to build Kefka, clone and copy effects, reanimation strats, and a few sneaky discard-based infinites can also be great ways to play the deck. How are you playing Kefka? Feel free to drop your favorite ways in the comments below and hit the like and subscribe buttons on this video. I appreciate everybody that has watched this far and hope you'll check out other episodes of What's All That Bracket as they become available. Bye for now.